Hello, welcome to La Excellence. Welcome to this session on Budget 2019 or specifically Interim Budget of 2019. In this particular video, we are going to analyze the entire gist of the Budget 2019 and we are going to see how questions can come from that. Before analyzing this year's budget, let us see some of the basic terms. First, what is the meaning of this word budget? And do we have this word budget in our constitution mentioned or not? These things first we should know. In our constitution, budget as a word is not mentioned. The word that is mentioned is annual financial statement. This annual financial statement is described under Article 112 of the Constitution. Under this annual financial statement, there are two types of bills. First one is for revenues. Second one deals with expenditure. For expenditure bill, this is known as appropriation bill. Appropriation bill. Then for revenues, we have finance bill. These are two types of bills that we have under this annual financial statement that is also known as budget. Now, in our polity, we will be reading some basic issues with regard to Parliament. If we take Parliament at the central level or state legislature at the state level, we should know how budget or annual financial statement is passed. First thing is, here in this case of Parliament, President of India should recommend the bill. Here in this case, Governor of the state should recommend the bill. Then, it goes to lower house of that particular legislature. Lower house, in this particular case, it is Lok Sabha. In the state legislature's case, State Legislative Assembly. There are only few states that have both the houses. And in the remaining states, they have only one state. This is known as bicameralism, bicameral state legislature. So first it goes to Lok Sabha. Then after passing in Lok Sabha, it goes to Rajya Sabha, that is upper house. It goes to upper house known as Rajya Sabha in case of Parliament. Here it goes to State Legislative Council. This is upper house at the state level. Now, once it goes to Rajya Sabha, from Lok Sabha, we told it goes to Rajya Sabha. Lok Sabha need to pass it with simple majority. No need of special majority. It should pass the bill with simple majority. Then it goes to Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha has three different choices. One, it can pass the bill without amendments, no amendments. Or it can propose amendments. It can propose amendments. So if it proposes amendments, it goes to Lok Sabha. If Lok Sabha says okay, then it is fine. If the proposals are not accepted, that is not a problem in case of budget or money bill. But for ordinary bills, the bills stay like that if the amendments of Rajya Sabha are not accepted. Here in this case, no problem. Then it has other option also, Rajya Sabha. It can keep the bill without sending it back to Lok Sabha, but it can keep up to maximum 14 days only. In all these cases, if nothing is accepted in the 14 days, the bill is deemed to be passed and it will be sent to President of India's assent. President of India should sign or should give assent to that particular bill. Then only it is deemed to be passed finally. So, President of India. Again, President of India has two choices. President of India, under his legislative powers, there is this power known as veto power. Veto powers are of different types. He can just keep it like that. That is known as pocket veto. And he can just reject it. That is known as absolute veto. or he can send it back for reconsideration. These things he can do. But in case of budget, either he can give the assent or reject it. He cannot send it back. That is the rule in this particular case. Many of us get confused over here because President of India is the person who has recommended the bill at the first case. Why will he reject it? Many of us, when the question says only this is the option available with President of India, we mark it as correct. But we should keep in mind this because though he might have recommended it, Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha might have amended it substantially. So, President of India can reject it or accept it. He cannot keep it like that. That means pocket veto is not available with President of India. Then, if all these stages are crossed by the bill, then the budget is deemed to be passed. If we observe, this year's budget is not a general budget. It is known as interim budget. Why is it so? Why are we calling it as interim budget? And some of you might have heard this word known as vote on account. What is this vote on account? What is the difference between these two? This also we should understand. And here the meaning of interim means in between. In general, on a general election year that is conducted once for 5 years, during that period, the government, we don't know whether that stays after the election or not. So, government morally doesn't have the power to give entire year's budget because the budgetary policies might change once the new government comes into the power. So, in between, for this period, for the running of government, we go for announcing some part of budget or short budget that is known as interim budget. Then, what is the meaning of this word vote on account? This vote on account is the expenditure side of budget. Expenditure side of budget means we have appropriation bills. Appropriation bills given by different departments under different ministries. For them, for the general expenditure, they seek some grants. But if we see, our general year, financial year starts in the month of April. But if we go for our budgeting process, budget starts in the month of February, but by the time the budgets get implemented, it becomes June. In between, for the expenditure of different departments, government goes for vote on account budget. Vote on account budget is taken up in general every year. But interim budget is specific to the election year budget at the central level. That is the difference. Interim budget again can have something similar to full budget where both finance bill and appropriation bill can be introduced or only the expenditure side, that is vote on account. If it is only expenditure, vote on account. If it is revenue as well as expenditure, that is something kind of general budget. Interim budget can be of these two types. This year, the government has introduced interim budget because it is going to have elections this year and it has gone for these two. It has given revenue side of the budget also. So, this year it is called Interim Budget 2019 and 20. Then what is the process for this budget? Is it similar to the annual financial statement under Article 112 or is it something different? It is not different. It is similar to general budget only. First, President of India should recommend, then it goes to Lok Sabha, then to Rajya Sabha, then again final bill need to be given assent by President of India. Now let's go through the highlights of this year's interim budget. Here this document I have taken from PIB Press Information Bureau. Let us see the important points. These are the highlights. It is a 12-page document Out of this we can expect 1 or 2 prelims questions and we should use some points in mains. So this budget is important for both prelims and for mains. Now let us see how to use these points in both of them. The first point that we should know here is a budget generally has 7 important components. 7 important components. What are these 7 components? First, it has demand of grants. Demand of grants means demand of money from different departments and different ministries. For this financial year, I mean 2019 to 20, and demand of grants for the last financial year. Demand of grants of last financial year if anything is required. This financial year, current financial year and the last financial year. These are 2 components. We have total 7. Third one is statement of accounts. How much we have spent. That will be there in general budget. Statement of account. Then we have economic forecast. How much GDP or how much deficits we are going to have. These are known as economic forecasts. And we have economic reports. How much we are going to spend or what is the economic performance, etc. Then government policies. Government's policies, programs. These will be there in the budget. Then tax proposals, direct tax and indirect tax proposals would be there in the budget. These are the 7 important components that we can observe in any budget, either it is interim budget or in the general budget. Demand for grants for the current financial year, demand for grants for the last financial year, statement of account of government, economic forecast and economic reports, government's policies, tax proposals. These are the 7 components that we have under the budget. Here, government says we have given measure, scheme for farmers, income tax rebates are given, inflation is lower. These are the highlights. Let us go through the important text. This is the summary of all the important schemes that the government is going to take in this particular budget. This is the summary. Farmers, unorganized sector employees, northeastern states development, health, infrastructure, scheduled tribes, all these are mentioned over here. Now let us go through the major schemes. The first scheme that is proposed in this budget is Pradhana Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi. We have discussed this concept of UBI, Universal Basic Income. Under that, one component is Minimum Income Guarantee, MIG, Minimum Income Guarantee. In the last 1 week, every day at least one single article is there either on UBI or on Minimum Income Guarantee. So government has introduced this scheme, Pradhana Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi, PM Kisan. It is this minimum income guarantee for the small and marginal farmers. Who is a small farmer? Who is a marginal farmer? Marginal farmer means the farmer who holds less than 1 hectare of land. Small farmer means the farmer who holds 1 to 2 hectares of land. What is this word meaning of hectare? 1 single hectare is equal to 2.5 acres. 1 single hectare is equal to 2.5 acres. Here 2 hectares here means 5 acres of land. The person or the household that holds less than 5 acres of land, they will be given annual income support of 6,000 rupees. Here what we should remember, it is not for individual but it is for the family or household. Here in prelims we can get confused. They can mention each individual farmer is given this. It is not farmer, it is household. That is the first point we should remember. Very important. Then they might change this. Instead of 2 hectares, they might give 2 acres. Acre is smaller compared to hectare. It is not acre, it is 2 hectares. It means 5 acres. They can change and give it like this. 5 hectares or 2 acres. They generally interchange in the prelims question. So we should be careful over here also. And 6,000 rupees is annual, not monthly. And what is the meaning of small and marginal farmers? This. So we should keep in all these things. Next point is, out of this scheme, 12 crore small and marginal farmer families. 12 crore small and marginal families get the money in 3 installments, each ranging from 2,000 rupees, and this scheme applies retrospective. Retrospective means from the past. So from 1st December 2018, this scheme applies. That is very, very important. But we might have read some other schemes like Raitu Bandhu scheme of Telangana, Kalia scheme of Odisha. These 2 schemes are also similar to this scheme. That is what we might have read. But these 2 schemes cover comprehensively compared to this, and they are giving more money as compared to this. If we take Raitu Bandhu scheme of Telangana, they give 4,000 rupees per acre. Here 2 hectares in this Pradhan Mantri Kisan scheme, 2 hectares, 6,000 rupees. 2 hectares means 5 acres. For 5 acres for single family, 6,000 rupees annually. But here 4,000 rupees per acre means 1 hectare, 10,000 rupees. 2 hectares, 20,000 rupees. So if we compare 20,000 with 6,000, it is very less. Or if we compare Odisha scheme, but Raitu Bandhu scheme here is similar to PM Kisan scheme, because here both the schemes are recognizing only the landholders, not the tenant farmers. Only the landholders' rights are recognized. What about tenant farmers? What about farm laborers? These are also facing problems due to farm crisis. What about them? This is not being addressed by either PM Kisan program or Raitu Bandhu program. But Kalia program of Odisha is a comprehensive program. It is transferring direct cash benefit of 25,000 rupees per family 25,000 rupees, and it is also recognizing tenant farmers. It is providing some kind of cash benefit for farm laborers also. So this is very comprehensive scheme. So when we write about this in mains, this entire discussion is important for mains. So in mains, if we are asked to compare, we should write this comparison. We should remember these for writing case studies. Case studies are important part in our mains. Here in this particular slide, Pradhana Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi PM Kisan program, regarding this, they have explained total support of 6,000 rupees effective from 1/12/2018 means retrospective. Total 12 crore, not individuals, families. 12 crore families having cultivable land, only the land owners, up to 2 hectares means 5 acres. Direct cash transfer to the bank accounts in 3 equal installments means 2,000 rupees at a time. Next, first installment by March 31st itself, and for this year the outlay is 75,000 rupees. This year means 2019 financial year starts from April. Last year means December 2018 to March 2019. For these 2 periods, 20,000 crore rupees. For the next financial year, 70,000 crore rupees is given under this particular scheme. Other important point with regard to agriculture and allied sector is with regard to development of fisheries. Fisheries is also one of the important sectors under allied agriculture, and government has decided to create department of fisheries, a separate department to promote growth in the fisheries sector. 7% growth because it is providing 1.45 crore employment in that particular sector. So that's why this is one of the important initiatives, Department of Fisheries, newly created one that we should remember. Next point is interest subvention. 2% interest subvention means reduction to the farmers pursuing animal husbandry and fisheries and who avail loan through Kisan credit card. This is important, Kisan credit card. And if they are paying the loan on time, timely repayment of loan, additionally 3% interest subvention. It means, let's say the interest payable is 7% on the loan. For animal husbandry and fisheries, the interest subvention means reduction is 2% means they should pay only 5% now. If they are paying timely the loan that has been taken, 3% extra reduction means they will have to pay only 2%. By that, interest rates reduce for these people who are involving in these two sectors. The same thing is mentioned over here. Interest subvention up to 2%, prompt repayment 3%. Here it is also mentioned that all farmers who got affected through natural calamities, they are provided assistance under National Disaster Relief Fund. Under NDMA, we have National Disaster Relief Fund. From that particular fund, NDMA is the organization that has this particular fund, National Disaster Relief Fund. From that, relief would be provided in case of losses due to natural calamities. Next important point in this year's budget is with regard to Rashtriya Gokul mission. Rashtriya Gokul mission was started earlier, and this mission is to increase the quality breeds of cows. Here, this year, setting up of Rashtriya Kamadhenu Ayog is being proposed. It is for what? The question can be Rashtriya Kamadhenu Ayog. What is the purpose of this scheme? Then upscaling of sustainable genetic upgradation of cows. That is the purpose of Rashtriya Kamadhenu Ayog that we should remember. Here Rashtriya Kamadhenu Ayog to upscale what, and Niti Ayog will go for effective implementation of laws and welfare schemes for cows. So we should remember this name and purpose of this particular program. These are the important initiatives under this budget with regard to agriculture, allied agriculture. Now let us see tax related issues. Here tax benefits are given to the taxpayers. In our prelims, they might give statement saying individual taxpayers, which taxpayers? Income taxpayers earning annual income up to 5 lakhs need not pay any income tax. So this they might change 5 lakhs to 6 lakhs or 4 lakhs like that, and they can give one statement. And the persons having gross income of 6.5 lakhs and paying some kind of insurance savings up to 1.5 lakh, they are also exempted from the income tax. Next point is if a person has 2 houses, and one house self-occupied, second house they'll have to pay tax for this particular income, rent income. But here from this particular year, second self-occupied house is exempted from income tax. That is one more point. So under income tax we should remember these 3 important points, because in prelims these 3, by interchanging the numbers or different things, they might given as a statement. Next point is simplification of direct tax system. Direct tax payment system is simplified. Here if we see assessee friendly IT department, all returns to be processed in 24 hours and returns issued simultaneously. In next 2 years, electronic verification and assessment of returns selected for scrutiny. Next, total increase in the tax collections. This can be a question. In general, in economy, when they give question, in the last 4 years, direct tax growth rate is increasing, decreasing, steadily decreasing, such statements they might give. Here in this statement, direct taxes increased from 6.38 lakh crore in 2013-14 to 12 lakh crores this year. That is a huge improvement. And tax base means the number of people paying the tax, direct tax, also increased from 3.79 crore to 6.85 crore. These trends they will ask. They will not ask how many crores, how much increased, but they will ask tax base is steadily increasing, something like that. So we should read them and understand the trends. Next issue is inflation. Finance Minister said that inflation on an average reduced to 4.6%, which is less than the target for this particular year. If we see December 2018 inflation rate, that is 2.19 only. So reduced inflation increases the disposable income, means the income that is used for consumption or saving with the person. Disposable income increases when inflation rates reduces. So reduction in the inflation is one of the successes of the government. Then if we take fiscal deficit, what is this fiscal deficit? If we take budget, we have expenditure as well as income. And if we remove expenditure from total income, if it is plus, we say that as surplus. If it is minus, we say that as deficit. So, deficits are of different types. One type is fiscal deficit. If we see the fiscal deficit, it has been brought down to 3.4% from 6% in the last 7 years. 7 years ago it was 6%. Now it has brought down to 3.4%. Current account deficit is 2.5%, and Finance Commission's recommendation is to increase the share of states from the total tax pool from 32 to 42%. That was also implemented. And here it's mentioned that there were many structural reforms undertaken, especially the taxation reforms. Important one is goods and services tax. Implementation of GST is one of the important structural reforms after 1991. Now India is the 6th largest economy in the world. By next 3-4 years we want to become the 3rd largest, and by next 7 to 8 years we want to become 2nd largest economy in the world. Next, for MGNREGA scheme, 60,000 crores announced. Next is Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. For this program, we know it is to build national highways. Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana for housing. These two are mentioned in the budget. LED bulbs means Ujjwala scheme. Under Ujjwala scheme, 143 crore LED bulbs were distributed. This is to increase the energy efficiency. So we should know about these programs in depth. What is this Ujjwala scheme under which LED bulbs are provided? What is this Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana? What is Gram Sadak Yojana? Here, provided electricity connection. This means Saubhagya scheme. So about these programs and their performance we should know. Next scheme mentioned over here is Ayushman Bharat program. We know that it is to give insurance in the secondary and tertiary sector. This is also known as Pradhana Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. So we should also read about this. Then setting up of new AIIMS hospitals. 22nd AIMS was established or proposed in the state of Haryana. Here is the gist, healthcare gist. Ayushman Bharat launched it is one of the world's largest healthcare program. Already benefited 10 lakh patients. Pradhana Mantri Jan Aushadhi Kendras. These are to provide affordable medicines at affordable prices. Then we have 21 AIMS operating already. 22nd AIMS to be set up in Haryana. Factual points we should remember. This is very important. Finance Minister said that Welfare Development Board for framing special strategies for denotified nomadic and semi-nomadic communities. Nomadic means the tribal groups or groups that roam around. Semi-nomadic, they will not stay at one place. Nomadic means they will not stay at one place, they roam around different places. Semi-nomadic means some seasons at one place, some seasons. So for their development, Welfare Development Board should be framed, and Niti Aayog will set up a task force or committee to identify denotified nomadic and semi-nomadic communities. Identification is also not yet been completed. So these two are very, very important. These are very much poor and deprived communities. For them, one, to identify them, a committee. 2, Welfare Development Board under Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. Next is related to Ujjwala Yojana. This is to provide LPG connections, free LPG connections. Already 8 crore LPG connections were given. Next year 6 more crores connections will be given. So whenever such schemes comes, which ministry implements, what is the objective, what are the important provisions, what is the pattern of funding, these things we should know for all these programs. Next, for the women's development and women-led development, these are the initiatives. Securing health of every homemaker by providing 6 crore free LPG connections given under Ujjwala. Ujjwala is related to LPG. Ujjala is related to LED bulbs. We should remember this. And Mudra Yojana, Micro Units Development Regulatory Authority. Under Mudra Yojana, 70% of all the beneficiaries are women. This is one of the significant thing. Micro units. Next, maternity leave of 26 weeks and Pradhana Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana for the pregnant women. These two are given so that women participation in the workforce will increase. Next announcement is with regard to artificial intelligence, science and technology. Here, National Artificial Intelligence Portal will also be developed. That is what is mentioned here. Under Niti Aayog, National Program on Artificial Intelligence has been envisioned. For that, National Center on Artificial Intelligence as a hub to provide 1. Training. 2. To commercialization of this technology. Likewise, artificial intelligence units, hubs are proposed to set up under this particular budget. Next is to increase the trade within the economy, outside the economy. Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion will now be renamed as Department of Promotion of Industries and Internal Trade. Internal trade is very important. For that, it is being renamed. Next, Government e-marketplace. This is the place of procurement. This has been created. It led to saving of this much 25 to 28% for the all central public sector enterprises. What is this Government e-marketplace? This is a website where all the goods, items, services that the central ministries, central departments, state governments require, they keep the demands over here. Providers will be there. They choose based on the quality and different things. This will increase the transparency. This will reduce the unnecessary costs. So, by this GEM, for this particular year, 25 to 28% savings has occurred to central public sector enterprises. And the defense budget will be over 3 lakh crore. This is the first time in India's history defense budget increased to 3 lakh crores. Next issue is infrastructure. In infrastructure, air traffic connectivity is one. In the last 5 years, the number of people going for air travel doubled almost. So, we want to go for different airports at different locations. We have this Udan scheme to connect the tier 2 cities also. We have airports and airport infrastructure in tier 1 cities but not in tier 2. To increase the regional connectivity scheme has been proposed, that is known as Udan scheme. Under that, new airports are commissioned. Operational airports has crossed 100 in India, and recently at Pakyong, Sikkim, new airport was launched. Next, Meghalaya, Tripura, Mizoram, they have come under India's rail map for the first time. So, in prelims, the question can be this: which of the following states have come under railways in the recent years? Meghalaya, Tripura, Mizoram. Why? Why are we saying it as a specific thing? Because these states are very difficult to reach geographically. So, to build railway lines over there is difficult, but for the first time, these three states are integrated under Indian Railways: Meghalaya, Tripura, and Mizoram. Here in this particular thing, different facts related to infrastructure is mentioned. Operational airports crossed 100 in India. Domestic passenger traffic has doubled in the last 5 years. And India has become one of the fastest highway developers in the world. We are building 27 kilometers each day. And inland waterways. Inland means within the country waterways, we started container freight movement. Generally, inland waterways were used for passenger traffic, etc. But container freight movement was very limited. Now, in inland waterways also container freight movement started. And if we take railway budget, capital support from budget proposed is 64,000 crores. Safest year in India's railway history, means accident levels are very low. All unmanned level crossings on broad gauge eliminated. Unmanned level crossings are eliminated. Vande Bharat Express. This is important. Vande Bharat Express launched with world class experience with speed, service, and safety. Very important. This we should remember. This is the gist of railway budget. Excess, operating ratio. This is expenditure. Working results, railway earnings. If we see all the railway earnings, freight earnings are more as compared to passenger earnings. It is not because railway freight is more, but it is because of cross subsidization, means the charges for the passengers are very low, but for freight means transportation of goods, commodities, the charges are very high. That's why income is more from this side, and it is substituted with this. So passenger fares are heavily substituted under railways. Next, solar generation capacity. India's solar generation capacity has increased 10 times in the last 5 years, 10 times. And India is major partner in International Solar Alliance. Then this is important. We want to become $5 trillion economy in the next 5 years, $10 trillion economy in the next 8 years. Now, it is the budget at a glance. What are the receipts? What are the expenditures? Here if we see 2017-18 actuals, 2018-19 budgetary estimates, 2018-19 real revised estimates, 2019-20 budgetary estimates. So whenever government submits its budget, these four statistics are mentioned in any budget. actuals because it takes time to calculate. So 2017-18 actual figures we will get to know. 18-19, so not yet completed. So budgetary estimates, revised estimate. Budgetary estimates we have kept this much as expenditure, but let's say less is expended. So we revises that expenditure. Budgetary estimate. So we give this much would be the budgetary estimate for this particular year. So these are 4 statistics given over here. If we see revenue receipts, capital receipts, revenue expenditure, capital expenditure over here. Revenue expenditure is more, capital expenditure is less comparatively. Here also revenue receipts are more, capital receipts are less. From our fiscal policy chapter, we should learn what comes under revenue receipts, what comes under capital receipts, what comes under revenue expenditure, what comes under capital expenditure. Here if we see deficit trends, as we have observed, the receipts and expenditure, whenever expenditure is more than receipts, expenditure here means both the revenue expenditure, capital expenditure. Receipts here means both the revenue receipts and capital receipts. So when expenditure is more than the receivables, then we call that as deficits. Here we have given fiscal deficit, revenue deficit, effective revenue deficit and primary deficit. These are 4 measures of deficit. Fiscal deficit is going to stay at 3.4%, revenue deficit 2.2%, effective revenue deficit 1.3%, primary deficit 0.2%. This is the trend. So go through our notebook, learn what is this meaning of fiscal deficit, meaning of revenue deficit, meaning of effective revenue deficit, meaning of primary deficit. Here if we understand the entire budget, interest proportion is higher. That's why deficits are bad. Because when we have deficits, the amount that we need to pay back for interest would be more than spending on other things. If we see agriculture and allied sector, we are spending 5 times more on interest than agriculture. It is because of our debt. So if we have less debt, less interest would be there. So money can be spent on different things. So here agriculture this much, defense this much. So go through this picture once. These are the important points in our budget, interim budget 2019 and 20. Go through each economy word, deficits, revenue, expenditure, what comes under that. So likewise, we should revise our polity budget chapter, polity, how budget is introduced, and in economy, fiscal policy, and in social justice, different programs of different ministries. So we should be able to revise from these 3 subjects when we read our budget.